Welcome to Business Insight. Our topic today is Action Trumps Everything, a new book by Charlie Kiefer, who is our guest and the president of Innovation Associates. Charlie, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, thank you.
Let's start with just your background. What is Innovation Associates all about?
Innovation Associates was the first company I started in 1975 and gained some notoriety about the subject of organization learning. My colleague Peter Senge wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline, which was rather a management bestseller. But more recently, I've been in partnership with Len Schlesinger, who's the president of Babson College, as you know, and that's really what the subject of Action Trumps Everything is, entrepreneurial thinking.
And what led up to the book?
Well, oddly enough, I've always been really excited about Babson College. At Innovation Associates, we used to run all our courses here. And so when my daughter was looking for a master's program for her MBA, I went to the website and looked at Babson, and I discovered that my friend Len had been just elected president. So I called him up and I said, what do you think about the place? Is it a good place for my daughter? And one thing led to another. And it's an interesting story in that, Len comes in. Babson is #1 for entrepreneurs for as long as there have been ratings, undergraduate. Well, you know all of this used to be there, right? And so they're always advancing entrepreneurial thought at Babson and entrepreneurism and the study of it and all of that. And we got into a conversation about it, ran across some wonderful research, in particular by a woman named Sarah Sarasvathy from the University of Virginia, who had done something rather unusual. If you look at the way much in the popular literature about entrepreneurism, you discover it has a lot of misconceptions. I ask people, what do you think entrepreneurs are? And they tell me, well, they're visionary, they're thirsty for risk, they're highly self-confident. But when you really look at the research, you discover that we, and I wouldn't have put myself in this camp until I read this book that she wrote, are fairly risk intolerant. We don't like it. We're very good at spreading it around and reducing it. We're not necessarily visionary. In fact, many entrepreneurs start without a well-formed idea. I mean, so if you go down the literature, you discover a lot of misconceptions, which have the consequence of, I think, misleading a lot of people into thinking they couldn't be an entrepreneur, when in fact they could, because the kind of thinking that entrepreneurs do is available to everybody. And that's what the book really is about.
And you went through this pre-publication manuscript. What does that mean? What did you have in mind and all that kind of thing?
Well, there are these stories about these things. Len and I, we learn things by teaching them, so we decided we'll have this course. And so we just invited people and said, come to our course. And that's how we developed the ideas. And then we were about 6 or 8 months into that and said, well, we think we have enough ideas here to start writing, which is another way you kind of grasp and learn about things. So we decided, well, we'll write a book. And that's when we brought Paul Brown in to help us write, because Len doesn't have the time to write. He's a good writer, and I'm not a particularly good writer, and it's very laborious for me. So, but Paul turned out to be a real gift, because he is able to take these ideas and really translate them into common English and make them available to everybody. So we wrote away, and then we well, let's get us a publisher. And so we went out and looked at a publisher, and they told us that if this was a year ago, about this time, that they would be able to bring our book to the market sometime in 2013.
Wow.
And we said, nuts. We'll do it ourselves. And we'll get it out to friends of Babson and ask them for their stories and ask them for refining the ideas, and we'll write a second version based on all the wonderful stories that they tell us. So that's what we're in the midst of now. We've got a real world publisher, and they're going to do it in a quicker amount of time, and so about a year from now we should have a version 2 of the book.
And how is this dialogue gone? What types of comments, and can you kind of give some explanation or examples of things that people have come up with that have added value?
It ranges. We have people who have looked at this manuscript and have absolutely hated it, but the preponderance of people have really loved it, which was a surprise to me, because it was a first draft book, But the number of people who said, it was a very easy read, and it was really helpful to me. I learned something about myself in it. A very senior entrepreneur executive in a large firm, I just had lunch with him yesterday, and he said, I read your book. I said it was really easy to read, And I realized that I'm 75 and I don't have a crushing desire like I did in my early ages. I don't feel the need to go start things. He said it was a surprise to me because I have started things and I've been entrepreneurial my whole life, but I'm at a point now in my life where I just want to sit and rest and enjoy things. Now, I didn't think this was going to be a book for him, but they found something. And then you go the other end. We have a guy in our course, 15 years old, who lives in Wellesley, where you live. He just bought himself a truck for his landscaping business. Now, you know, you can't drive a truck when you're 15 in Wellesley. This kid started a landscaping company, had 4 or 5 employees, and had just bought them a truck. His company had bought them a truck. So it's just the range of stories that we are hearing from people. And so many people say, like I felt, the ideas it's like coming home to me. It's like the first time I've read anything about entrepreneurs that really fit the way I think.
Now, where on the web can one download the book?
The website, actiontrumpseverything.com. The book is free. It's in a PDF format. You can put it on your Kindle. You can put it on your iPod, your iPad, not iPod, but your iPad. And you can also buy it at Amazon and CreateSpace, and the links are there. But if they just go to actiontrumpseverything.com, then they'll find how to make their way to the book.
Tell us a little about your experience with self-publishing.
Oh,
and
please.
Anything you tell other people that are thinking about it.
Well, we thought that it might be interesting and easy, and there are a lot of companies out there that are pleased to help you. But what I now know about self-publishing, I think if I had known at the start, I wouldn't have done it. It was a real trip, Peter. It was a real trip. I think, having been through it once, it would be really easy to do it the second time. But the first time, you end up taking, just like we say in our book, you want to do something, you take a small action based on what you've got in front of you, and you take a look at the results of that action. Except if you don't know what you're doing, which I didn't, and we tried to hire an expert, and that guy fouled out, you end up taking a lot of very suboptimal steps. And for some guy like me, they can be pretty disturbing.
So if somebody wants to self-publish a book, they ought to get you as a co-author.
No, thank you. But I wouldn't discourage it. I would just say, you know, be ready to make more mistakes than you think you should have to make.
Okay. Well, let's move into the content of the book. And
Sure.
what is the basic premise?
The basic premise is there is a kind of thinking which is particularly suited when you're dealing with something which is effectively unknowable for you. Now, most of what we're educated in school has got an answer at the back of the book. And we become habituated in some sense to the notion that we can figure things out, we can predict things. In fact, the basis of Western science is to take things from the unknown and bring them into the known and bring them more predictable. And so at the extreme case of that, we have physical laws, and then we have probabilistic things and all sorts of things that go out from there. Afforded the chance of playing a game of relative certainty, everybody will probably choose that if you can make money on it. The thought was that entrepreneurs were much more risky than that. But if they're afforded the opportunity of playing a game with certain favorable odds, that's what they'll play. They won't take the risks. But the game that they do like to play is one in which the future is of their making. It's almost an unknown future right now. And they have a particular style of thinking, which we all have, by the way. They have a particular style of thinking, a way of thinking which works really well for that. They don't presume that there's an answer that's the right answer. They presume in some sense that what will be there because of their action. They will put it there rather than discover it. Right? And this has, as you probably, well, you know, of course, that this has no basis in economics. Economics doesn't permit the notion of creating something out of nothing.
You mentioned in the book the word creaction, I guess,
Right,
which is a term you coined. How does creaction fit in? What's the definition or whatever of that?
Well, creaction, we just coined the word to distinguish from prediction. Prediction being, you know, that the future is in some way logically derivable from the past, in which case you would predict and you would take actions that you could figure out in advance. Creaction is what an artist might do, is that it's a combination of create and act. And it's really 4 simple steps. It's the first one is you act quickly with the means at hand. So rather than sit there and how do you amass all of the necessary resources, as I might in a large organization, I see what I've got in front of me. Who do I know? What do I know? What do I have available to me right now, and how do I get into motion? Right. But number two is I'm always acting within the bounds of what we might term affordable loss. So how much am I willing to pay to play this game? And I'm always got my finger on that pulse, so that I take relatively small steps that I could recover from, but I take a lot of them, and I'm learning along the way. The third is that I'm always looking to bring other people along, partially because of the resources they bring, but also because they confirm my judgment. After all, I'm going into the unknown. So if some other people want to go with me, it's a good testament. I may not be completely full of it, right? But they also bring additional resources and perspectives. So you'll see often these entrepreneurs are doing deals with everybody left and right, you know, to get other people's resources and to lay off the risk. And finally, I build off what I find. So I get a result. Maybe it was what I expected, I'm happy. If it's not what I expect, then I could get annoyed about it. It's a natural human response. And what you'll see in these people is they don't stay annoyed very long. They say, okay, that's what I've got, what can I do with it? How can I turn this lemon into lemonade, so to speak? And so it's a posture. It's a posture with regard to discovery that says, I could turn this into an asset. I might know something now that no one else knows, and if I can build that into my product, it will be a competitive advantage. So those really are the 4 steps, in plain and simple.
Does this apply to large organizations as well as small ones?
We don't have as much experience in that, obviously. There are a lot of things about large organizations which are make it very difficult for this way of thinking to exist. They're fundamentally prediction machines. They try to stamp out variance. Key aspect of entrepreneurial thinking is that entrepreneurs are always doing something they want or something they think will get them what they want, and that's not necessarily the way we run large organizations. So we think that in large organizations there are 2 obvious places. One is in the area of innovation, maybe not across the whole organization, starting with small units, where you could practice this kind of thinking and accomplish results, and in particular, wherever the organization is operating with high degrees of uncertainty. This is a better way of thinking.
And is there any reason why now is a good time for this book to be coming out?
Well, were it me, I wished it was out there 30 years ago, because I had a hard time understanding myself how I was thinking when I created this business, and I knew the people around me, even the people in my company, thought that I was curious. Yeah. And this is not unusual, right? So the sooner the better, and that's why we didn't want to wait 2 years for the publication. The plain fact of the matter is that on the jobs that are so necessary both here but everywhere on this planet, over the course of time have been created largely by entrepreneurial action. We need more of it. And our hope is that this book, plain and simple, will enable anybody to look at this and say, I could do that. I may not want to do it, but I could do it. And the more we have trying, the more jobs we'll create.
Do you have any sense of a type of person or a person with certain inclination would be more or less receptive to the concept?
You know, we have had such a diversity of people in the course. I don't know that. And we've had social entrepreneurs, kids, 75-year-olds, entrepreneur wannabes, the parents of some of these people that just want to support their kids or support their husband or spouse. I hate to say it, but I mean, I think that the ideas in here could be appealing to just about everybody, and it'll be a matter of, you'll know in the first chapter. The first chapter lays it all out. You'll say, either I'm interested in this and I want to keep reading, or I don't, and it's free. So go read the first chapter online and you'll know whether you want to do it.
Before I forget, let's mention again where one can download the book.
Oh, it's just the website, actiontrumpseverything.com.
And your last chapter, let me read it. How entrepreneurial thought and action can make a better world. Can you explain a little about that?
Well, part of it is what I just said.
Yeah.
This way of thinking does not guarantee that a particular venture will be more successful. Doesn't help with that. And I don't think it ever will. I don't even know how we would research that. But it does, just the arithmetic, the mathematics is clear that the more you try at lower cost, the more you can try. And if you learn something every time you try, chances are out of the fourth or fifth time you're going to have a successful business. So clearly helping people start entrepreneurial enterprises, even part-time around their kitchen in the evening to complement their day jobs. One of the things about these serial entrepreneurs that we studied and Sarah studied is that they have multiple deals going at the same time. They have portfolios. So starting more businesses, absolutely vital. But we see the same kind of dynamics in the social entrepreneurs. The social entrepreneurs that have come, that have started agencies like in Boston here, More Than Words, or geez, they changed the name. It used to be College Bound Dorchester and various other agencies here in the Boston area. The social entrepreneurs have said, this is the way we think. This is the way we had to think to start. And we've been laid all of these, you know, classic business constraints on us, but we can't operate that way. We have to operate in a more creative mode. So we think it's going to be the source of social entrepreneurism. We think it's going to be the source of more business entrepreneurism. We see places for it in the churches, possibly as breeding grounds for more entrepreneurial activity in their parishioners. It could be anywhere. It could be anywhere. Anywhere where you're dealing with the unknown, you know, the 30 minutes it would take you to read this, the kind of thinking would help you in that unknown.
How would this affect Babson or another school that wants to teach their students to be successful as entrepreneurs? What would this do in terms of how they might change or orient their classes to take advantage of this type of insight?
Well, that's a good question. First, as you know, Babson's whole curriculum is built around this kind of stuff. So it's, in a sense, not the right comparison point, I think, because they're going to figure out their way of doing this. And I think other schools as well. I mean, Tufts, for example, has a very strong entrepreneurial program here in the Boston area, and they're going to go about it differently. So I'm going to only speak personally. I'm not an educator. And I was looking at the K through 12, and I'm saying if throughout K through 12, my teachers had legitimized action as a way of learning to complement all of the thinking I was taught, wow, would that have made a difference? It's an add-on rather than a replacement, right? So any class could have an action-oriented component. You're faced with, you don't know, learn how to act smartly, right? And that could go through college. I don't even think it necessarily, you know, you could modify the courses, but in a college level, what about the co-curricular? And this is what they're doing at Babson. They're saying, okay, we've got, you know, 100 hours a week where the kids are not in class. Let's help them start businesses or learn how to act effectively in the world in the face of the unknown. And I think that's going to be powerful. And I think the kids are going to like that, and the students are going to like that, and they're going to say, well, we want to do it, and we'll bring the faculty along if that's what's necessary.
It's interesting. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Clark University in Worcester, which is a liberal arts school. But they've got a strong program for entrepreneurship, and I think this would be great. I mean, maybe you ought to be writing a case or something, in other words, that a course could use it in order to get the thoughts across without having, you know, necessarily the whole course about it. So here's another assignment for you.
Well, Peter, why don't you come help us write? We're doing books with co-authors. That's our next idea. So we'll do a case with you at Clark, and you write the book. See, that's the way, you know, it's like everybody always comes with ideas for things for me to do, and I'm saying, well, no, wait a second, I'll help you do what you want to do.
And should I self-publish it?
Well, you could, but maybe we'll have a publisher that'll roll all of these up by then, you know, and have a whole mass of little creation kind of books. Well, son of creation, grandson of creation.
This is so interesting, and I think it's really important. I'd like to thank our guest, Charlie Kiefer, who is the author of Action Trumps Everything for Business Insight. I'm Peter Marx. Thanks for joining us.